In the theory class, mass communication theory, it really replaces the 15 to 20 page research paper that I would normally assign. And that particular course, the research paper, is on the effects of media on the society, on individuals. And the textbook that I use has a number of chapters on that. So in that particular class, they're each assigned a topic based on their preference. They give me a preference. And then working in a group setting, they have to review all the peer-reviewed literature that they can find on that, and then prepare a journal synopsis for each of the journal articles that they read. That then, after they have collected those data points, it then moves to an analysis of those data points. They're very used to thinking in deductive terms. This is my proposition, now I'm going to go prove it. And of course, from this, it's a very inductive process. They have all these data points, and now they have to make sense out of it. And I found that the wiki, having all of that material in one place, submitted by everyone, with certain benchmarks and requirements and formats that I give them so that they can do the analysis later on, works beautifully in collecting the data and then analyzing it, trying to figure where the similarities and contrasts are. In the analysis phase, they are required to post to the wiki on 4 different days during the week. And the post can be significant, it can be minor, it can be this, but it generally is fairly significant. And they have to do all of their communicating through the wiki. No IM, no email, no face-to-face in the analysis stage of this, to get them to actually have to use the tool. And so I give them a very broad structure. They need a wiki page for comments or conversation, and they need a wiki page for content. And so then I go in and I monitor the progress on a spot basis mostly. I check up, and then it gives me something to give feedback or comments on in class. The project is really divided into 5 sections. And the first, they have to read the peer-reviewed journals. I give them a format that I want them to do the journal synopsis in. And that really only consists of 4 things, or 5 things. It's number 1, the citation, so they can easily find it later when the bibliography has to be created. They have to describe the problem that the research was trying to address. They have to describe the methodology that was used in the research. They have to summarize the findings, and then they have to write a short paragraph on what they think the significance of it may be, stressing that it is not their opinion, it's what they think, their conclusion they came to as to where this may be useful in the later paper. Then once they've collected 12 of these each over a 3-week time period, so usually there's groups of 3 or 4, so we're dealing with 36 to 48 data points, if you will, journal synopses. Then they have to compare, and I give them, oh, now this is the way you start the comparison. And you look first at the problems and where are the similarities, where are the differences, group them. What were the findings? Were they contradictory? Were they confirmative? What are you seeing in the data? Always stressing that it's not, you're not proving anything, you're trying to find out what's going on.
Right.
Then it proceeds to a rough draft of the document. Then it proceeds to a final draft, which includes a comparison with the textbook, because within the textbook, which I don't make a big point of up front, are all the topics that they have chosen and the research that has been done on them. The textbook's about 12 years old. That means that the research that was used there is significantly older than 12 years in the creation of the textbook. So in essence, what they're doing is updating the textbook on the latest research in their topics, because I tell them they can only go back 12 to 15 years on the research that they're reviewing. So it becomes an update of the textbook on the effects of media. When looking around a classroom, as any experienced faculty member knows, it takes about 3 days, 3 class periods maybe, to figure out who's going to do the work and who's not. Mm-hmm. And you may be wrong on the fringes 5 to 10% of the time, mm-hmm. but largely you're dead on. Those kids, the ones that are used to carrying the group, mm-hmm. smile. Mm-hmm. Because I tell them right up front, I know it's documented who goes on, who does what. It's not a record that you can change. And then I tell them that the grade is based, first of all, it's a group grade on the paper. Mm-hmm. And then the group grade is adjusted based on participation. So someone who's participating in a C paper, but has done all the work, and it's good quality work, mm-hmm. could get an A, mm-hmm. while the rest of the group got a C, mm-hmm. or less. Right. They like that.
Oh, yes.
They very much like that there is accountability for it. And about 2/3 of the way through the project, there's always one group or someone who stops by who says, you know, this group just isn't doing it. And that's my cue to really check that group. And they all know I have the capability of it. It's sort of like a mutual assured destruction. Mm-hmm. Right. They know that it's there. So it does not require a lot of policing on my part. Mm-hmm. But when the problems occur, then you've got the documentation to support the decision. This paper is a formal academic paper. Yeah. Other than specific format, look is not important. Mm-hmm. It is not. It is intended for an academic audience. Right. So we don't spend any time other than me telling them that I really like subheads to be able to track where they are. Mm-hmm. First of all, they find a safe haven. They're not performing for the entire group. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot easier to have candid conversations in small groups than it is in front of the entire class. So I typically start the process with closed groups. Mm-hmm. Okay. I also I want them to have to struggle with how they're going to organize their data and their comments without relying on the best organizer in the class. Right. Now, early on, I've recently changed that because early on, the group was the only one. The group members were the only ones who could actually change anything in the wiki. Okay, in the document itself. Sure. But everybody could see everybody else's. They could read it. Well, what I found was that then the most reasonable and the most organized people who are used to organizing large amounts of information, mm-hmm. all of a sudden the other groups were not struggling with that problem. They were copying that problem, or they were copying that solution, sure. which is fine and to a certain degree, but it doesn't have them solve their problem. So in the last 2 or 3 semesters that I've done this, I have secluded the groups for until they get into the analysis stage. Mm-hmm. And then I open a read-only so they can see what others are finding, mm-hmm. because occasionally there's information there that are useful in other arenas, sure. But then they've had to struggle with the problem themselves.
Yeah, and the organization's already set.
And the organization is set. Mm-hmm. Too late to go back and change it without doing everything all over again. And they're not too inclined to do that. For some strange reason or other, I don't know what.